Welcome to the Content Rocks podcast, the show about all things kontent.ai, .NET, and Azure for people who want to learn more about headless technology. And now, here's your host, Brian McKeever.
All right, hey everyone, we're back with another episode of the Content Rocks podcast, as the intro says. Today, I'm very pleased to be joined by Rob Christie, the Director of Web Development and Strategy at Monolith. Rob, how are you doing?
Not bad. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. You know, as we were just talking about, it's a Friday. We're both looking forward to what's coming next after this, so we're going to get through it. But I'm happy to have you on to have a conversation about kind of your journey from working on monoliths to now being more of a headless developer and your experience with certain tools and platforms and things you're seeing, and how you actually now have kind of started to embrace kontent.ai for some of your solutions at your job. But before we get into the real technical aspect of things, I always like to surprise my guests, Rob, and I didn't warn you. What's one thing you love doing outside of work? Something you're passionate about, something you spend your time doing, any kind of hobby? What's something that you do outside of all this development stuff?
I play a lot of golf, believe it or not.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm in a golf league, and I've got a lot of stuff going on.
All right. So here's my judge of that, because I too play a little golf here and there. Do you have a handicap that you carry or keep?
Yes, I do. It's
okay.
It's like I'm kind of all right. It's about 17, like bogey golf. So
okay. Yeah. Then in my world, you're amazing, because I am nowhere near that. So congratulations. That's awesome. And maybe later on we'll talk golf a little bit, but that's
right.
Fantastic. So and Rob, where are you located?
I'm in the Bay Area. I'm in the Dublin, California, which is basically a suburb of Oakland. Okay. And nice this time of year, maybe, or is it still a little cool? It's raining like crazy the past couple of days, but other than that, we get a little different weather because we've got mountains blocking us. So it's in the winter it's kind of cold, in the summer it's super hot out here. But after 15 minutes and it's Bay Area weather. So
I don't feel too bad for you, considering we still have a lot of snow on the ground.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
I think I'm in there.
I think maybe just some context for the listeners out there. You and I actually just recently met through one of the DevRel people at kontent.ai, and just point out that you've got kind of a cool story, and that's kind of the whole theme of our conversation today. Just I'd love to hear more about kind of what you do, what you have done with different projects, and maybe what you're working on now, and we'll kind of go to some details from there. So I guess, Rob, what at Monolith, what's your day-to-day look like?
My day-to-day, it's kind of an interesting company. We're a one-stop marketing solution for a lot of other companies. Like for instance, right now I'm working on bringing 33 online publications from an old legacy system into kontent AI. I've rebuilt, we've got a few websites. I've rebuilt a few of them already into kontent AI. Also, it's a service we offer to, customers of us that we can migrate their, monolithic website onto a new headless solution for them. So, I have a few developers reporting to me, and I kind of run the show on that side. So
very cool. And let's start from maybe the last part of your sentence there. So Monolith. So you have some experience working in the monolith world then too. And
yes.
So what does that look like quickly? And then we'll talk about how it's changed.
It was when everything's tied together like that, like for instance, let's just say WordPress, where it's front end, back end, and database are all into one, installation. One thing goes wrong, you can get into a lot of trouble. And there's even just doing a rollback could be kind of sketchy. I always felt too that it was it's never the most secure thing. I mean, I just never felt right with it, but it was the way things were done. No matter if it was Drupal, Joomla. I go back far enough where I remember there was Mambo, which forked off into Joomla years and years ago. So I've been through the whole monolith thing. Moving into headless, it makes more sense to me. There's so much more you could do. You're not tied into one thing. So
fantastic. And So as you've kind of made that journey, you and I talked a little bit previously that a lot of it has went really well. You're excited about it, but there were kind of a couple like things that were maybe unexpected along the way, or maybe gave you a little trouble to get started. So maybe for developers listening out there to the show, is there something you would tell them like, hey, here are some challenges I had with like moving to maybe the headless type of solution architecture?
Yeah, it's really changing your mindset, which is the hard part to get around. Like, you're not making a database call for every little thing. You're making, a few API calls, and then you've got it all there. It's also too, you got to get into the mindset of, I guess it's called composable now, where it's, component driven or component built websites, where you're building it in little pieces. You're not building the whole thing. And a lot of time with monolith, with monolithic CMSs, you're building the whole page at once, and you're making, a few different, a bunch of different database calls and stuff like that. And it's just, you've got to, it's almost like you've got to change your way of thinking entirely, and everything you were doing before, it's just switch it, just accept that, it's done differently. And then once it clicks in your brain, or at least for me, once it clicked in my brain, I realized how much easier it was. And it
Mhm.
was just, go time from there. It was,
Yeah.
it just, I mean, I think it depends too. I mean, I've been working with content management systems since like 2005 or 2006 or something like that. So, and they were all PHP. They were, I can remember, I don't even want to talk about it, but like laying out websites in Excel so that you knew where the tables were and stuff like that. And
I've been there.
before CSS. So to go from that journey to how it is now, and it's thank God it's getting easier and easier and easier. It's just once it clicks, um, it it'll like blow your mind. You'll be like, oh wait, I could do all this stuff with this. And it's cool in that, like, okay, I'm not stuck with, like just our CMS. I'm not stuck using their API. Like, say we've got to use, I don't know, something like Calendly or something like that, or something, like we can call multiple APIs and we could build the page all in one, which, yeah, to me,
Yeah.
it opens up a lot of doors. So,
Yeah, I get what you're saying, because I think one of my first impressions of this whole thing years back is, oh my gosh, there is no database.
right.
There is no place where I have to wait to get information from. And it's impressive how fast a lot of these APIs, it doesn't even matter like what product, like SaaS-based headless CMS,
Yeah.
it's fast,
Yeah.
and it's fast all around the world. So it's really, one of the advantages of headless architecture. So yeah, there is no database thing that took some,
Yeah.
time to wrap my head around.
Also, too, like I started to realize like how much more secure it was, which is like a huge thing, like, hey, we're not connected to a database. It's, we don't have to worry about people, somehow hacking it with a plugin like you would with like WordPress. It seems like every 6 months there's something that comes out. Oh, if you've got this plugin, delete it and all this other. We don't have to worry about that anymore. So yeah.
Yeah. And even, I think flexibility too, right? I think when you work in this way, it opens up almost using any framework or
Exactly.
library or whatever. And I don't know if you can share or not, but like, did you find that freeing that you could pick like technology X as a front end framework to build the site in?
Yeah, that was huge too. And like right now I'm using Nuxt, which it's just coming from a web developer, like at least like the background I had, Nuxt made a lot more sense than something like React, or it was a lot more straightforward. So like I started using Nuxt a few years ago, but I realized that, like, hey, if say we have to make an app for a I don't know, like a conference or something like that we're hosting, right? We could still use content AI. It's just we can write the app in a completely different language. We're not tied into one language for any kind of front end, and that's huge. That's just gigantic. So
Yeah, and you mentioned in your intro, like you do have a couple developers who you lead. Is it something where that's been nice for them that they can maybe bring some
yeah,
technology skills that they can just apply with headless?
exactly. It's basically, it's almost at the point where, if they're building something, I don't care what the front end language is. It's like, it works.
Right?
There it's they all, they all have advantages or like some disadvantages, but whatever you think is best for the project, that's what you can use. And it's just the flexibility that gives you is awesome. So
Yeah. Okay, so now maybe a little bit into, as you were looking at headless platforms, you've kind of landed on kontent.ai. Was there like a strong reason, or was it just luck? How did you
yeah,
go about it?
I've used a few different platforms in the past. I've the amount of migrations I've done from monolithic to headless, I've done it for, gosh, 4 or 5 different companies now, where like, I come in, they're on WordPress or they're on Expression Engine or something like that, and they want to move over. So I've used a few different ones. When I got here, a big thing was, I said it, I think I said it before, we've got like one part of our offering is like 33 online different publications. Each site is different. It's a different URL. The way that collections work in Content AI allowed me to do it all in one space, where the ones I've used in the past, I don't want to call them out, but like one of them, I had 3 websites on one space, a couple of them, and they were like, "Oh, no, it should just be one website on one space," just the way the platform was set up. And I had to do all sorts of hacking inside of Nux to get it to work. But like some of these websites were like 6 pages. I didn't want to do a separate space for a 6-page website. And then another, like it should be, it's API driven. I should be able to just call what I need. With Content AI, the fact that I could have all of those on one space and then use it like in theory, I could, put all of our websites into one space and use the others for sandboxes or something like that.
Right.
But I just preferred to do this because, and also at the same time, they're publications. So the content modeling, the content types are the exact same throughout all of them. The fact I could just say, oh, okay, this is in this collection, this is in this collection. And then when I'm, working on the front end of the site, or when the site is live and stuff, it made things so clean. And there was that also, which is kind of interesting, is we're using Content AI as a content repository as well. So like the entire content team is in there. That's where they develop their content schedule. That's where, we're building a front end right now where like sales can go in there and get all the different content that they look for and stuff like that.
Sure.
So it's like a multi-use platform. And I think the deeper you get into it, the more your brain works, where you're like, oh, wow, I could actually do this in Content AI. I can do this. And I just really liked it. There is a learning curve, but once you get over that learning curve, I just think it's awesome. So,
Yeah. Well, hold the learning curve thought for just one second. I think that's where Content AI feels that they have a really strong feature offering, is around, complex content operations and lots of websites with the ability to have unique content in them, or still share across, like you mentioned, the similar content types needed. And that's what one of the reasons we really like it as well, because I think it does it well. As you said, some of the other platforms out there maybe aren't doing as well. So I totally agree with that statement, and I'm glad to hear it coming from a customer as well. So let's go back to the learning curve thing then. Is there something that you would say like, oh man, I didn't understand this as a new developer picking up the CMS?
Yeah, and there is one thing that caught me, and it was a little hard to even find out how to do it. Like it took me a little bit, but that was it's interesting in Content AI, how you place components is inside of a text area. And that like threw me for a loop when some of the other CMSs I've used, it was just, okay, here's, you don't have to make an area, or you just say, okay, this is a component area, and you put it in. That took me a little bit to even just figure out. But once I figured it out, I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense. And what's cool about it is, like, say there's a blog post and they want to put a call to action in the middle of a blog post, they could just drag a built component in there that's a call to action. And like, that was so much better than any of the other ones I've used. Like, now I understood why it was in a text area, if that makes sense. Like it was just, so that was the the main thing. And then once I realized you could start nesting components, and you can make it, I forget what they're called, almost the Russian dolls, where it's like I can make a component just for buttons, and I can do this and this and this. So yeah, it initially was that, like, wrapping my head around why is it in a text area. So
sure, yeah, and it does. It gives the marketers or the content editors the ability to like create kind of rich dynamic areas, but not have it be like the wild west, right? They can still stay within your brand guidelines or your style guide or your design system. And a CTA looks like this. It has this exact color and hover state and animation and URL and caption, and it's all the same across the site, but not just near this one card in a fixed area. It's in the middle of those 3 paragraphs of text.
Right. And also we can limit which ones they can use, which is huge.
Governance is important these days.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. You also mentioned that there was a little bit of an unexpected result, and I kind of want to end a little bit with that. The change in what you saw, like maybe performance of like builds and delivery of this.
That threw me for a loop in that. I mean, I've used Netlify for years now. Probably I've been, on Jamstack for like 6 years. And like I said, I've used a few different CMSs. Our build times on this are ridiculously quick. It was, I'm used to waiting, there's been times on another CMS, a site could take, I don't know, 8-9 minutes to release or something like that, which is, I mean, looking back, back in the old days, 8-9 minutes, I would have, been stoked if something. But like now it's just like, oh no, I want it faster. But like one of our sites, which is, pretty large, it's like under a minute and it's live. And it's maybe it's just, the way the API is built, or maybe it's the way, they've set it up, it's just so much faster. And I love it. It's awesome.
Well, it's that whole kind of like developer experience, right? If you have to sit and wait 8-9 minutes to see the result of a publish or a build, like you're going and getting coffee, you're getting distracted, someone's trying to get you on a Teams call or some craziness these days. But to have it be faster, it's a benefit to you too as the developer, but also like the performance of the website. Clearly is much better at that point.
Right. And like, there's been times in the past where there's a last minute press release that I was not privy to until like 1 minute before it's supposed to go live. Right. And it's just like, well, I can't get this up in a minute, like it's just not going to happen the way it does. Like, you've got to give me like at least 10 minutes lead time. So, like if I have to worry about that now, it's just like, all right, yeah, fine. I'll do it,
Well, fantastic. I have a feeling, Rob, that you and I could probably open a nice cold beverage and sit here for probably another 2 hours talking about all the fun things and even some of the gotchas that we talked about. But I really appreciate you sharing the insights of, being that developer who's kind of helping along the journey to Headless from Monolith. So I'm happy that you're happy with kontent.ai, because we generally like it here as well at BizStream. And, hey, in the future, I hope you keep using it and keep loving it. But we should probably wrap here because I think we're running out of time.
Sure.
And, we'll talk about that golf thing maybe offline a little bit.
Right.
More everyone else, because I'm curious about courses and all sorts of things over there in the West Coast. But I can't thank you enough, Rob. So I really appreciate your time. Hopefully everything works out right. But if there's any issues, reach out. Let me know on the Discord community and the email. If anyone's curious about your thing, they can reach out to me as well. It'll be up on my blog and the YouTube channel. So
okay, cool. Hey, yeah, thanks a lot. This was fun.
Yeah, appreciate it, Rob. We'll be in touch.